The question in my mind is, how do you create or relaunch a highly profitable and successful 6 to 7 figure business? With so much conflicting advice about the best ways to start and grow your business, how do you get it right the first time? I want to help entrepreneurs make a real difference and navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. My name is John North, and this is the Startup Secrets for Entrepreneur Show. Join me today when we dig deep with our guests and get you the best blueprint so you can fast track your own business. This episode is sponsored by Evolvepreneur.app, your all-in-one online business system. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at startupsecrets.show right now. So let's get into today's episode.
I was just speaking on the Evolvepreneur Secret Show. John is a fantastic host. We had a great conversation. And then if you watch this episode, you're going to get a lot of key takeaways out of this, especially if you've gone through any type of trauma or any type of obstacles that you've overcome in your life. Both of us drop a lot of golden nuggets in this episode, and you'll definitely want to check it out.
You're listening to the Evolvepreneur Secrets Show for entrepreneurs, and I'm your host, John North, and my mission is to help entrepreneurs make a difference in the world and obviously get through the shaky bits of marketing. So my very special guest today is Robert Foster, and welcome Foster, Robert, to the show. God, I haven't done a podcast for so ages, I've forgotten how to talk.
And it's great to just have fun with it. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's probably better. So I'll dig in your little bio a little bit because we'll just discuss it. So you're award-winning international speaker, mental health advocate. Don't we all need a bit of mental health right now? Host of the hit Shut Up and Grind, which inspires guests to share their stories of trauma, survival, and defying the odds. And you help people heal themselves. And obviously, as part of this process, you're involved in a gym or you run a gym. So obviously, yes. We talked about the fact that a lot of people don't go to the gym unless they've got a problem to solve or some trauma to get through. So you probably dig into that as well. So single parent to 5 kids, right? That's a lot of trauma in itself.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes. Oh boy.
What I realised with kids is that basically you'll never go to the toilet in peace ever again.
Yeah,
trust me, even I don't know how old your kids are, but
yes,
my
youngest, I have twins who are 13, so like maybe the last couple years I finally can take a shower without somebody knocking on the door.
No, if they live in your house, you'll never. I've got a 23-year-old and the same problem. You cannot have a shower or go to the toilet in peace forever. So just bear that in mind.
So true.
So there you go. I've depressed you already. Okay, so tell me how you got to where you got to be in the situation. I'm assuming did you start off as a gym junkie kind of thing, or what happened there?
Well, I'm the youngest of 7 kids, and we were all athletes, and my parents were also athletes. So that part of it was just kind of in the blood. And especially being the youngest, watching my older siblings have their successes in basketball, track and field hockey, and I wanted that. Mm-hmm. So I hit my growth spurt very late. Like I was a junior in high school before I finally grew to over 6 feet tall.
Oh, nice.
And I was super skinny. So I don't want to say I didn't resent them at the time. I just resented my own genetics. I'm like, why are they all big and strong and I'm short and scrawny? Mm. So anyway, so that's where the drive to succeed came from, because I was always labeled as so-and-so's little brother. Mm-hmm. And I hated that. I hated it with a passion. Like I just wanted to be Robert Foster.
Right.
And so I just attacked my training. Like once I finally hit puberty, started growing, started putting on muscle. And that's where the drive came from. But I liked speaking. I liked leading. Like I was captain of my sports teams, and I just liked leading other people. And so I grew up in a very rural setting. My parents had like 1.5 acres of land. We were in the woods, and I would always go out in the backyard and I would speak to the trees. I know it sounds crazy, but the trees were my audience. And I would sit there and I would just give these motivational...
Hey, no word of a lie. Like I went to this, I don't know, it's a long story, but I went to this kind of Indian kind of retreat thing once in Blue Mountains. And apparently when you were cooking, you were not allowed to talk because you were upsetting the vegetables and stuff like that. So maybe you had something there. Like, I don't know. I thought I'm not committed to this, but it's like that's what they did. You weren't allowed to talk while you cut off the veggies because it would put off this negative energy. So there you go.
That's funny. I've actually heard of something like that.
Yeah, it was bizarre weekend. I don't even know how I got involved in the end, but anyway.
Yeah, and so remember my mom, she came out onto the deck this one day as I was out in the back giving my speech to the trees, and she's like, "Boy, what are you doing?" And I told her, I said, "I'm motivating the masses." So just that was something I wanted to do. My dad was an engineer, God rest his soul. He just passed in 2019. But he was an engineer, and he just always wanted me to just do something like that.
Right.
And now he definitely wasn't wrong, because he was kind of pushing me towards computer engineering. So this was back in 1992. And so he saw what was happening with computers, and he's like, "You want to get into this industry?" I'm like, I really don't. And so I went into school. I registered to for computer engineering, but I hated it. Like I didn't want to take physics. I didn't want to take calculus. Like none of those things interest me. I was like, I want to work with people. I said either something in the health field or just something where I can lead other people and motivate and coach other people. And so I ended up falling into the restaurant trap for 20 years. So I became a restaurant manager. But throughout that process, I learned everything I needed to know to transition into business, because you get that label, especially here in the States. Like if you don't go to college, you're going to end up flipping burgers or pumping gas. And so I left school because I didn't want to be there. But throughout managing, like I learned how to lead people. I learned HR practices. I reckon
people should sue the government for stealing 12 years of their life.
Yeah, exactly. So like only thing I really had to go out and learn was how to get booked in the media, marketing and branding. Like everything else I already knew. And so I finally left the restaurant industry and I pursued fitness. Like I started it just as a side hustle at first. And then it just grew into a multi-six-figure business. I was like, whoa, like how did this happen? But deep down, I still wanted to be a motivational speaker. Like that's what I ultimately wanted, like going back to when I was 17, speaking to the trees. So in 2020, when the government
don't pay much to the trees. They don't pay much for that kick.
But in 2020, when the gyms were shut down, that was when I got into podcasting. Well, I got into it in 2019, but with my father being sick, like I really wasn't pushing it wholeheartedly, because he was in the hospital an hour and 40 minutes away. So, getting there 5 days a week, was a big time commitment. Yeah. But then when he passed, I went full force. I was like, I'm going to make this speaker thing happen. So that's how I got here.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. Like, it's funny how things sort of fall in the path, but you know that it's kind of just a way of building blocks to get you somewhere else, right?
Yes.
You don't realize that till you look back.
Yeah, it's so true. Looking back on the journey, there's so many stories that just talk about just how it all unfolded.
So one of the things that I've sort of like got a bit of a bee in my bonnet lately about is the concept of the fact that I think that social media has suckered people into thinking lazy with marketing. That and they used to be able to like run ads on Facebook and they get somewhere, and now it's costing more money and all these other dramas. And I think that it's a fundamentals of business that people have never been taught or thought that they could get away without doing it. Yeah. And it's a lazy, boring, the boring, slow stuff you've got to focus on. And I think part of that problem is they think, the other thing is I think they don't think that the people behind the other end of it is real. Yes. All right. So much when you talk to someone, you're not really talking to a real person. Yeah. Even though you are. So all the niceties of society where you wouldn't walk up to someone in the street and start talking at them and yelling at them kind of thing, but in social media it seems like you can just do that because they're anonymous. It's not real. Yes. And I think there's, to me, there's a big shift in the way that people do business. And I think with the whole pandemic and the great resignation of people moving and changing to things that they thought they might want to do, it's quite funny really in some respects. People want to change to something else, and when they get there they realise the grass isn't greener on the other side of the fence.
So true.
So I guess be careful what you ask for. But yeah. So you started podcasting, which is a good, interesting kind of subject matter, because what happens with people with podcasting is they start a podcast, and statistically about 9 episodes and they give up. So it's the average. And part of the reason was they never thought about what they were really going to podcast in the first place. They didn't have a proper strategy around it, and they didn't have a way to monetize it. So at the end of the day, it's almost like they get to a point, well, I'm not getting paid to do this, so therefore your energy level drops off and you stop doing it.
Yep.
So tell me what sort of challenges you've had in terms of trying to get to that level of, number one, getting the podcast done, because it's a bit of techie stuff, but it's not that much.
Yes.
And then getting to that stage where you think, well, what have you thought through what your goals are in podcasting? Who's your perfect guest? Do you focus on someone who can perhaps be a contact afterwards, or is it more about getting high quality guests on? What's your normal way you do it?
Yeah, so I wanna just touch on what you said a second ago with social media. I think where a lot of people struggle with social media is they don't have their avatar defined. Like if you think of the people who watch Oprah, like there's a certain group of people that watch her. There's a certain group that watch Howard Stern. You know, there's a certain group that watch, say, Shannon Sharp on his Club Shay Shay. So people put out very broad messages on social media trying to appeal to everyone.
And hoping they can figure it out themselves, right?
Yeah, and when you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. Like in fitness, all of my marketing goes to moms. And it's like, do I train men? Yes. Do I train non-moms? Yes. Do I train teenagers or young adults? Yes. But all of my messaging goes to moms. And so I get a lot of engagement that way because moms have specific things that they're dealing with. And so my social media posts go towards alleviating those stressors and, just giving them the validation that we understand this is what you're going through and this is how my program can help you. Right. So with the podcasting, I had no clue what I was doing at first. And you get the imposter syndrome, like you got Joe Rogan out there and you got these celebrities. Like I'm no celebrity. I mean, I'm from Rhode Island in the States, and it's a very small state. And it's like almost like everybody knows everybody here, but outside of so like outside of here, like nobody
Sydney's really like that too. Like there's 4 million people in Sydney, but you run into people you know every day, all day. It's like someone knows you that knows them. It's like quite amazing. Yes. So you're more known than you are, right? People, you don't realize it sometimes.
Yeah, true. And so how I got out of that imposter syndrome, because I was like, who's gonna listen to me? But then that's when it's like, you know what? It's like, my show is about overcoming obstacles, because in 2009, I suffered a bad knee injury where the doctors told me I was never going to run or jump again. And so I was able to battle back from that. And I'm back playing basketball again, volleyball. I compete competitively in track and field, so on and so forth. So like I overcame that obstacle. Like I defied those odds. And I'm like, there's got to be stories out there of people that have defied the odds. And so, to answer the question about my perfect guest, literally it's anyone, because everybody has a story to tell.
Yeah, if you live long enough. I saw a good ad in Facebook good image in the Facebook. I'm old. I survived this long for a reason.
Yeah. Exactly. So I built a coaching program, and people always ask me, like, where are you certified through? I'm like, I'm certified through 48 years of living. It's like that's where I'm certified through. It's like in fitness, I've trained over 3,000 people, mostly women. It's like I've actually done women's empowerment groups, and people would come in and be like, "I thought this was a women's empowerment group. Like, why is he here?" It's like if you're seeking empowerment, don't judge where it comes from. Yeah, I offer a lot of value in working with women. I was like, so it's like, don't judge it until you actually get into the content. And it was a very successful series. But, the big thing is to know what you're talking about and who are you talking to. You combine those two things and you're going to have a successful show.
Control your destiny and create a complete business system for your online business. Evolvepreneur.app offers an easy and cost-effective way to build your online business by helping you avoid the pain and stress of implementing multiple systems, giving you the freedom to automate and scale. Support our sponsor by grabbing a free copy of Startup Secrets for Entrepreneurs at Evolvepreneur.app. Yeah, exactly, and I think you're getting very clear about what you're trying to achieve there too. I think that's the challenge is people, and I guess also ability to say no. I think what I've learned in business is that the more you say no, in some cases it's actually better, because people say yes too readily, too quickly, and never commit themselves or never do anything.
Yes.
And so I think being conscious about what you won't do, or who you won't have on the show, or whatever, is being clear about that
Yes.
beforehand, because then you don't end up burning yourself out either. So
Yeah, exactly.
So how's the show gone? Like, is there any sort of milestone achievements you've managed to get on the show, or?
So I've done 255 episodes,
Not bad.
and
Shabby.
the biggest takeaway that I'm getting is the network.
Mm-hmm.
So like I haven't monetized the show itself,
Mm-hmm.
but what has come to me as a result of the show,
Mm-hmm.
like for 2022, I was nominated as having the most empowering fitness platform. Like, because of the show, we're showcasing people's struggles. We're helping people overcome mental health issues and depression, anxiety, so on and so forth. So it's a lot more than just lifting weights and losing weight. So helping people with their mental wellness is huge.
Mm.
So there's that. We were voted best of Rhode Island for 2 years. Again, and it's more so from the empowerment, not so much the fitness. It's like we're taking people from a place of depression, and we're bringing them into a place of power. So in the gym itself and within the podcast, because as I bring the guests on, like, I don't vet them ahead of time. It's like I kind of look into their bio, see what they've overcome, and then I just tell them, like, I want to talk about this. It's like, I'm not going to just ask you specific questions about your business. It's like, I'll give you some time at the end to talk about your business. I want to know how you got through this thing, and all the deep steps of how you got through it. It's like, 'cause that's what's going to inspire people. And it's going to help them better connect with you and your product, knowing that you just weren't handed everything on a silver platter, because that's what people think. They think all business owners are all multimillionaires. They're driving a Tesla, and they're living in the luxury penthouse. It's like, and that's right? Not the case. Yeah, it's like, I've gone through absolute hell, to get stuff off the ground. And it's in those stories where people resonate the most, because that's where the majority of people are. They're stuck in a career that they don't want to be in.
And I think that's a challenge, isn't it? Like, at the end of the day, it's almost like I was thinking about this the other day, was that you're sort of like not free in society in some respects, because most people got a job. They've got to make money to survive. It's almost a vicious cycle of entrapment, if you like. And in Australia particularly, like, you discover how much real freedom you've really got by the government. So the only way to make freedom is money. But to make money, you've got to work. To work, you cannot make enough of it. So you're just stuck in this endless cycle of trying to move around. And so until you can break out of that and create that kind of freedom, and I think there's a perpetuation. I think probably our parents were the same. It's like, you have to work hard. You have to put in 60 hours a week. You have to, and what you realise is there's not 8 days in a week. and I think working smarter and working around and looking and thinking about things more, I think it works a lot better than trying to just get stuck in that daily have your head down, bum up type of thing, getting nowhere. And I think I think that changed in the last couple of years. I think that was a big mind shift for people, that suddenly realised, hang on a minute, I can't go to work, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'll find another way. And really, and discover whether their relationships at home are that good anyway, because they're never there usually. It's like, I think we've created an interesting kind of melting pot of change that's going to happen over the next 10 years or longer. So when you're looking at someone's, like, I guess the gym's a good example. They come in the gym, they're overweight, whatever. Often, as you say, there's something else going on there, and some people aren't necessarily self-aware of that, right? They tend to, they probably know, but they don't really want to know, right? They're usually. So, is there anything you sort of do to kind of break through that kind of, I guess, you're trying to restrict yourself from doing it? You've boxed yourself off. You're not really accepting the real truth about why how do you break through that without them wanting to punch you?
Well, like, I've been training officially for going on 14 years now. And right when I think I've heard it all, somebody throws me a curveball. But I never accept the surface answer, because I'd say 95% of people, when they come down, the first thing I say is, so what brings you in? And they'll say, I want to lose weight and tone up. Like,
So the
everyone
biggest
says,
comes out
everyone's,
first, yeah.
yeah, everyone says that. I said, okay, lose weight. How much weight do you want to lose?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I just go levels deep. All right, I want to lose 20 pounds. Why? Well, because I don't like the way I look and feel. Why not? You know, like, what will that do for you? Like, how will your life change if you lose 20 pounds? You know, how important is it to you to lose 20 pounds? And why 20? Why that particular number? It's like, I just ask a series of why questions to get to the real answer. You know, because sometimes
That's
the
an
answer
interesting,
is,
yeah, that's an interesting thing, because the whole why structure is
yes,
you can apply that to almost anything. So it's really powerful. Like, you say to someone, why are you doing this? And you keep going why, you get about 8 levels deep and you get the real answer.
yes.
And so I think it's probably very powerful. And maybe you didn't even realize that you probably did it because it works. And to a degree I did, but I realized actually the methodology to it, that you keep on going those levels deep and keep asking why, until eventually they want to punch you. Then you've hit the bottom.
It's true. Like, even on the podcast, when I'm on with guests, usually at least once per show, I always get I've never been asked that before. Like, wow, I've never been asked that before. And because again, it's like, I want to get into the how. Like, how did you create your multi 6-figure, 7-figure business? Like, what pitfalls did you go through? I'm like, and how did that make you feel? How did you navigate that? You know, so it's just that series of how, so you can get down to really what it is that the person had to break through. Because people try to just brush over things. They're like, hey, well, I had a cancer diagnosis and I got treatment, and I'm all better now. Then they move on. It's like, whoa. Like, when you got the cancer diagnosis, what was your initial thought? How did you tell your spouse? How did your kids react? It's like, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, that's a big,
Yeah, so it's like, people just want to give the surface answer and move on. It's like, but that's not where the power lies. Like, the power lies in how did you navigate the struggle. And I get to that point.
It's quite interesting actually, because I was listening to some sort of science show or whatever, and apparently the brain, when something traumatic happens, it colors in to make it sound better than it was.
Yes.
So that you won't kill yourself. Basically, right? It's your brain protecting yourself from yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is you color in those to make it look better in history. But when you're in the moment, it's very scary, and at the end of the day, you sort of like, your brain's going, oh yeah, it's all right, it's like, no, it wasn't. But at the time, you've forgotten it all, or conveniently forgotten it all, because you don't really want to address it.
Yes.
And it's quite funny, because I'm talking about cancer. I had bowel cancer diagnosed. Like, I got diagnosed on the Monday.
Oh no.
The surgeon says on Monday afternoon, what do you do on Wednesday? I go, I guess I'm coming here. So on Wednesday we have the operation, takes it out. I'm up walking around on Thursday. I'm home Friday night. And someone says, well, what epiphanies did you have? I didn't have time for epiphanies here. Like, it's like between one thing and another, you're just going through the system. So you don't process anything. You just basically just follow the next bouncing ball to the next step. And at the end of it, they go, thanks, see you later. See you next time. And it's like, and you think, well, hang on a minute, did you have time to process? No, because it happened so fast. It's almost like a car accident, right? Like, you don't remember it. And it's quite, whereas other people who go through that trauma for months and months and months, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I always say healing, regardless of what type of healing, it starts in your mind. Like, when I got that diagnosis that you would never run or jump again, initially, I teared up, like my now ex, she was there with me, like, and I looked up at her because I had just decided to go full force with fitness. This was in 2009. So February, I left the restaurant industry, and then this happened that July. So like, I was just starting to get things rolling. And when he said that, like, it floored me for a second. Then I was like, I'll keep it clean. But I was like, you don't effing know me like that. I was like, you don't know what I can come back from. I said, so I'll leave it up to you to put my knee back where it belongs. Because like I said, it was a bad knee injury. I said, you put my knee back where it belongs, and then I'll take it from there. And I attacked my physical therapy. It's like, they gave me minimal things to do, minimum, I should say. they didn't give me a maximum.
Mm.
So I was doing stuff all day long,
Mm.
all day, just working on strength, doing the electrical stim. And like even people in my circle were like, "What are you doing? You're doing too much." Like, how do you know? How do you know I'm doing too much?
How much
Right?
is
I'm
too
like,
much,
I'm like,
right?
if I'm doing too much, my body will tell me.
Yeah,
Like
your
I'll
leg will
end up
fall off
hurting
probably.
something. Yeah, yep, I'll end up hurting something. And
Yeah,
then
you'll
when
know.
I ran again for that first time post surgery, this was, I think it was 4 or 5 months post surgery.
Mm.
Granted, I looked like a newborn giraffe, but I still ran. It's like I still ran, and at that
Yeah.
moment, it's like I'm making a full comeback. But
Mm.
like it starts up here. If you tell yourself I'm never gonna run or jump again, or you get that cancer diagnosis and you say, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die soon."
Mm. Mm.
It's like you all you're doing is speeding up the process.
Yeah, yeah. You feel self-fulfilling prophecy then, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think again, it's like saying no, right? Like
Yeah.
learn to say no more, because I think the biggest problem in society is that number one is another guy I'm doing some more books with. He said that basically when you go to school, you're taught to answer questions. You're never taught to ask them. But
Mm.
sooner or later, you get to the point where you've got to every through your whole life. You know, when you got to get a driving test, you got to answer questions. When you got to get a job, you got to answer questions. And so no one ever asks any questions. So
Yes.
that's almost a variation of saying no, right? So no, I don't accept your answer.
Yep.
Maybe there's a better way, and so many different scenarios. I mean, it was just a good example in Australia. There was a lot of fines handed out during COVID where police were basically just arresting people nilly-nilly for all sorts of stupid things.
Mm.
Somebody took them to court and won, and then they reversed all the fines. So everybody got their money back. And
Nice.
these fines were hefty, though. It's up to $5,000 some
Yeah.
cases. And anybody who pays is going to get their money back. Because one person decided to say no and said, no, I'm not
Exactly.
accepting this. I'm going to take you to court. And as soon as they won, everybody benefited from it. They did jack shit, really. Like, no one else did anything. It's like a check in the mail. I didn't do anything. But
Yeah.
someone went through hell for that, I bet you, because it's not easy going to court. It's not cheap. It's not simple. It takes
Yeah.
time. It's out of your life. Someone put a real commitment in there, but they'll probably
Yes.
never be thanked for it. But the
Yeah.
reality is they, change and possibly change it in the future as well, so they won't do it again.
Yeah, like even when the gyms were shut down here, now like the facility that I work out of is big. It's 11,000 square feet. Well, I think we have nine windows in there, like 9 windows that can be opened. We have, I think it's 6 doors, 2 garage doors, so we could very easily ventilate the place.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can see if it's a yoga studio that's small, compact, doesn't have any windows. Like I could see. So like I was taking a stance of you can't lump us all in the same box. Like a 500 square foot spin studio. Okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I get that stuff, but there is no reason why we have to close. And
Logic went
I
out the
went
window.
I went to the
Logic went out the
news.
window. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's
No,
like I
legit
went
went
to
out.
the news and four news stations came out to our gym. They walked around, they took the video, and I was like, somebody has to challenge why this is happening.
Mm.
I was like, and so I want the governor to tell me why we can't open when we can adhere to the 14 feet spacing. We
Mm.
have cleaning solution all over this place. We have windows to
Probably safer
ventilate.
than
Like,
a house or shopping centres, which they let you
yes,
go to,
for
right? They let you go to
real.
the shopping centres, no worries.
Yeah, exactly. So they said they can have 7,000 people at our local mall. 7,000 people. But I can't have 10 in my gym. It made no sense.
Yeah, yeah. That's
No
fear. See, that's
sense.
fear. That's a classic kind of scenario, is that people in fear will make these crazy decisions
Mm,
with no logic, and so the benefit of hindsight or the benefit of logical thinking goes out the window, and you
yes.
start working off fear. And I think that probably full circle back to what we're talking about, is that I think a lot of people operate out of fear,
Yeah.
and it's not the best place to be. You've got to get beyond it, otherwise you'll make the wrong decisions for the wrong reasons, and then and sometimes those are big decisions too.
Yes. Yeah, just my biggest takeaway there is to just ask to like you have to not be afraid to speak your mind.
Yeah,
But
even
like
though you've
so
been
many
taught
people
not to,
just
right?
just blindly complied. And,
Yes.
and I was like, whoa, wait a second. It's like we can adhere to everything that you laid out. Because like the
Mm.
state of Rhode Island, they put out opening guidelines. I said we can adhere to 100% of these.
Mm.
I'm like, so why are we closing because other gyms can't?
Mm.
It's like that's got nothing to do with us.
Mm. But
You
have you
know,
found
so
that now, I think in Australia anyway, particularly I'm thinking everywhere else, everyone's over it now. Like the governments don't care anymore. They went from not caring about you to caring about you, supposedly, and they're not caring
So
about
true.
you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they don't care about you. Like there's no mention of it anymore. It's like, and it's quite funny when you think about it because it's more political than it is, like protecting people. It's about that air of kind of like we're helping you kind of for political reasons ultimately, I think. And I think that's the downside of it is that
Yep.
it wasn't done for medical reasons. It wasn't done for logic. It was out of fear. And when you run a business on fear, you're in big trouble because everybody's fearful, right? And you create that sense of fear. So I think that's the takeaway with that stuff was that, there was not a lot of decisions made on the basis of actual logical process. It was all just following other people and following the herd,
Exactly. Like I actually got bumped. I was supposed to be on Ticker News there in Australia.
Oh yeah, I've
And
heard a few times on that, yeah.
yeah, and my segment got bumped because Australia went back into lockdowns. So they had to go and cover the breaking news. So my segment got bumped.
You got bumped.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right, so I want to ask you one last question before we wrap up. And it's I think it's a good question to ask some people. Is what would you tell if you were your younger self? What would you tell your older self? To pay attention to or to do or not do.
I know it sounds cliche-ish, but I wouldn't change much. Like what I would do is I would have paid more attention to credit. Right? Because not having good credit definitely made the journey a lot tougher.
Yes.
But like credit cards were just coming out then. Because remember back in the day, if you had
I worked for a bank.
Oh, okay. Like if you had a platinum card, you were like balling.
Yes.
Now like every card is platinum now.
Yeah, everybody's special. Everybody's a VIP.
So I just wish I paid more attention to that. Like I would just tell my younger self, bank 20% of your revenue and keep your credit as high as possible. And then you'll have endless possibilities. Because like I ended up getting a couple business partners to open up my facility. I mean, that has since gone south, but we'll save that for another episode. But like that's what I would say to get better at saving. Because when you're young and you have a decent paying job, it's just very easy. You start splurging, thinking like the money's endless.
Yes.
And it's not endless. So
everybody's a millionaire, right? Just the money flows through. You never get to hang on to it. Like,
yes,
I reckon the secret of investing is actually hanging on to it, not losing it.
yes, exactly. Eating out all the time and splurging and taking vacations and doing all this other stuff. Where it's like if I look back for 20 years, if I set aside 20% of my income 20 years ago, like how much money would I have now?
Well, I had this insurance, right? I had this insurance that was a few $1,000s a year for sickness and accident insurance. I claimed on it once. When they had the cancer, I broke my ribs once and they wouldn't pay me because it wasn't covered. I worked out I paid over $100,000 for this insurance over that 20-year period. I got back about $10,000 or a bit more than that maybe. And I looked at it and thought to myself, hang on a minute, if I just put that $3,000 a year away, I'd have $100,000 today. Right? Or more. And not only that, they increased the premiums to nearly $13,000 a year. I was like, well, hang on a minute, I could save that up and you're only ever going to pay me a certain amount of money. But when I look back and look at all the money you've paid, I think, well, I wish I thought of that earlier.
Yes.
Right? I would have been so much better off. So having those thought processes of thinking back and going, hang on a minute, I really should have this? Is it? And it's those little tiny amounts they get away with that get you. It's not the big amounts. It's the little tiny ticker amounts that tick over out of your bank account that you don't notice. So I always go over... I think one of the things is I always go over every 6 months or something, go over all the financials and find all the little amounts that are coming through and say, do I really need that? Should I get rid of that? Am I using that at all? And you often find you can save thousands of dollars out of the gate just by finding those little tiny amounts. They then go for the big ones, but doesn't have to be.
Yeah, the other thing too is one of the things I realized, it's very easy to make $100,000. It's like when you're working in a job and you have the employee mindset, you think you got to work 10 years and then you'll be able to get the company car and you'll make 80 grand. And
They don't go broke in the meantime.
yeah, like when we opened my gym, now granted, I opened my gym the right way. I started in my garage. I
Mm-hmm.
started with used gym equipment, but
Yep.
like I sold people on the end result. It's
Yep.
like I didn't
Through the
I didn't
sales
sell
process.
them. Yeah, like I didn't sell them on a state-of-the-art facility and all this other nonsense that people do. It's like, right, if you want to lose 15 pounds, I can get you there.
Mm.
Like that's what I sold
Results. Sell the
people
results.
on.
Mm.
So when I opened my facility, we already had 150 clients. So
Nice.
we were profitable right out of the gate.
Foundation. Yeah.
And
Mm.
the goal was to make 600 grand for the year, and we made it by May.
Mm.
It's like it happened so fast. I was like, whoa,
Mm.
like if you just lean into something that the market needs,
Yes.
people come to you.
Mm.
Like you were talking about Facebook ads. It's like I remember I ran an ad. I mean, I know ads are a little different now and require more spend, but
Mm.
this was in 2015. I ran a Facebook ad. I got like 90 people in for a challenge and made like $20,000 in a course
Mm.
of 3 days.
Mm.
It's like if you
Nice.
work a job, even if you're making a grand a week, you still have to work 5 months to make $20,000.
Or put a
I
lot
made
of
it in three
overtime in that you'll never
days.
get, the tax will get it anyway. So yeah, it's hard to, it's
Yes.
very hard as an employee to make a difference in that financial status unless you
Yes.
get promoted and then use that means
So
more
true.
hours. So it's like an endless
Mm-hmm.
cycle of, yeah,
Yep.
makes sense. So I get to the shameless promotional section. Tell us the audience a little bit of how they should get in touch with you, who you're looking to connect to, and that sort of stuff, so we can help you in the future.
Right, so it's twofold. So you can reach me by going to robertbfoster.com, just the way it sounds. And the people I'm looking for, so for the podcast, I'm looking for people that's overcome obstacles and you want to share what it is that you've overcome. And on the other side, if you've been through something that you have yet to overcome, I can help you overcome that through my Speak About Yourself Out Loud program. That's where we take a dive deep into what you've been through. Unfortunately, you'll have to relive it for a minute, but then we're going to extract the teachable moments. And I'm going to show you how to turn those. You can turn it into a book. You can start a blog. You can start your own podcast. You can share your story on other podcasts, on TV. Like there's so many things that you can do. You can speak to support groups, but keeping that information inside is the worst thing for you because you're never going to address it. The more you talk about it, the more comfortable you're going to get talking about it, the more you're going to accept what happened. But the biggest thing is once you see how your story makes other people feel, that's when it now becomes bigger than you and you've stepped into your power.
That's cool. That's good. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the secret is keeping it a secret helps no one, right? And I think
Yes.
people don't care about you till you care about them.
Yep. That's so true.
In that situation. Fantastic. All right. So basically, I really enjoyed our chat. Maybe we'll have another chat another time. We'll dig into the business partner stuff because I had went through that as well. It cost me $1 million. So I tell you that whole backstory.
Wow.
There's one little interesting thing that you mentioned in there that was quite interesting. I think it was that you only got one kidney, your sister's got the other one. I think that was what you said. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that. You got.
So now this was only 2 years after the knee injury. So I was just getting back to strength. And this was Christmas of 2009. All right, so it wasn't even 2 years after. Like I was still rehabbing when she initially called me because it took us a year and a half to have the surgery. But again, that's a story in of itself. But so she called me on Christmas. I'm thinking she just calling, talk to the kids. I'll talk to my niece and my nephew, but she just had a different tone in her voice, like very somber. So I'll give you the quick version. She had a pain in her leg. And so she went to the ER because like the pain just got worse and worse. And so they did the blood test, urine test, and all that, and come to find out her kidneys were only at 12% function.
Wow.
They're like, they were declining quickly. And so she ended up getting on dialysis. The dialysis was making her sick. And as I mentioned, I'm the youngest of 7 siblings, but at this stage, I'm the only remaining athlete. So health wise,
you're the healthy target.
I'm the healthiest one out of the rest of them. So I said, I'll go and get tested. And full transparency, she's technically my half sister, but like we don't play the half game. So we went through the testing, and we were enough of a match to proceed forward. But she ended up catching a virus, so we couldn't do the transplant until the virus was completely out of her system. So now this was January of 2010. We didn't have the surgery until May 26, 2011.
Wow.
So so now she was on the not well end of it, but for me it was just psychological. It's like they're gonna take an organ out of me, and it's like I get it. It's like I get it. People do it every day, but it's like we're born with two for a reason. I'm giving one up. And it runs in the family. But it's like right now, this moment, her health was the priority because. Like I said, the dialysis was making her sick to the point where she started to skip. And I told him, like, if you skip, like, you can die. Like, you can't skip dialysis.
Skip it. No.
Yeah, it's like, once this virus is out of your system, we're there. We're all there. So we had it done. She's like I said, this was in 2011, so it's been 11 years now. She's doing great, and they're like she's shorter than me, so they said the size of my kidney actually works in her favor because her other ones were smaller. So just with the size of mine, it should last longer than
bonus up the liver. Bonus up the kidney.
Yes, exactly. So
crazy. Very brave of you in the end of the day, but I mean, I guess that it comes down to the basic human function of trying to help your family, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Well, it was a pleasure having you on the show. It's certainly lots of unpack there, and I hope that someone listens to and gets some ideas. I mean, often it's just one little thing. You pull a thread, and then suddenly something comes out of it. So I think there's lots of interesting stuff in there. So I really appreciate your time, and we'll get you on again soon.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. This was a lot of fun.
That's a wrap on another awesome episode for the Startup Secret Show for entrepreneurs. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we'd be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at startupsecrets.show right now. Until next time, if you're an entrepreneur, make a start on your next great business idea today.